Just to let everyone know, it is not April the 1st when I'm recording this video. In fact, it is currently July 2022 and Renault really are bringing back a non-CCS version of the Renault Zoe. Now, if you thought that was crazy, don't worry. Renault have actually gone one step further on their crazy changes to the Renault Zoe here in the UK. And one of the changes in particular, to me, just seems confusing and totally insane. Now, when the Renault Zoe ZE50 was first released in the UK, Renault sold a few versions, and some of those versions, even their top spec model, came without CCS. And I made a video about how insane it was making a car when they released the Zoe back in 2020 without CCS was absolute madness. Renault obviously took notice of this, maybe, and actually dropped the non-CCS versions from sale. And that meant that you couldn't order a Zoe without CCS rapid charge, which I held as absolutely fantastic and a success for maybe my pressuring them in the background about removing that option. Well, they've decided to bring back the non-CCS version back of the Zoe, and the only reason I can think they've done that is so the Zoe can be priced for just under £30,000. Now I'm going to discuss some other ways they could have dropped the price of the Zoe to below 30 grand while keeping all the safety equipment that's on the higher spec model and without selling a non-CCS version. Now in a minute I'm going to talk to you about some of the trim levels that Renault have decided to introduce and change on the Renault Zoe, which are insane. But before we do, let's stick with CCS for a minute. They are going to have the non-CCS and CCS model. Now you may think that the version of calling a CCS version may be called rapid charge like it has in the past, or maybe call it, I don't know, CCS as the option model number. No, Renault have gone for the non-CCS version just to have the model name, and the CCS version will be called, in the model name, Boost Charge. What the hell is a boost charge? Now it's worth noting this is not me having a go at Renault and well, more particularly Renault UK's weird option ideas. It's more the fact that it just seems very confusing, but it's worth noting that some things about the Zoe are very, very unique. It is one of the only cars that I know that's currently for sale with a 22 kilowatt charging rate on AC. Now if there is another car, I think maybe the Smart car might have it, but let me know down below in the comments if you know of any other cars that come with it as standard and currently sold today. So you can't say old Tesla Model S's because they don't sell the 22 kilowatt charger in any car at the moment, as far as I'm aware, apart from the Zoe. Now the Megane E will also have this unique feature that the Zoe has, which is 22 kilowatt charging, which if you don't understand why that's important, check out some of my other videos where I explain how that possibly could be the future destination charger. Now the next bit I'm about to read, I've had to read a few times. I've actually re-recorded this part of the script 4 times now because I confused myself as I'm reading it. So if my eyes divert from this camera, it's because I'm looking at this script here. And this is because this is extremely confusing changes by Renault. And I've had to write it in a way that's less confusing. Now let's first explain. Renault currently, when they released the Zoe, sold it in 3 specs. They sold a Play model, which was the base spec. They sold an Iconic, which was the mid spec, and a GT line or GT edition, which went through different names, which was the top spec. Completely easy to understand that, you know, there's 3 specs and each one of them goes up and they get better. Now the GT line name will no longer be used. The GT line will be getting a new name, which is going to be the Techno EV50. Now that Techno EV50 will be getting some additional spec to what it currently has here in the UK. So it'll be having some gold tints, some fog lights around the gold tints, and it will be offered with Boost Charge, and was basically CCS, which you should order, and a non-boost charge version, so no CCS, so don't order that version, obviously. Now the confusing part, which is where I'm going to look away now, is the higher level trim. So the higher level trim, which is going to be higher than what a GT line was, or GT line is at the moment, the higher level version will include 17-inch alloy wheels, some more gold elements, so copying the launch edition to the Megane E, sort of that kind of, those gold tints everywhere. Looks very nice, actually. I don't mind it. I would like a delete option possibly on those gold. Won't be to everyone's taste, so it would be nice to have a delete option on that. The confusing part though is this higher level trim, this model that's going to sit higher than the Techno, which is going to be technically a higher spec than the current GT line. They're going to call it Ionic. and it will only be sold in CCS, in a Boost Charge version. This higher spec on Boost Charge only version will be higher spec than a GT line. Now, why is this confusing it? Well, it's going to be confusing because at the moment, the Ioniq is a lower spec than the GT line. The Techno is the same spec as the GT line, that's fine, but the new Ioniq will be higher spec than the GT line and higher spec than its Ioniq previous name of the lower spec version, which means what's going to happen is you're going to have two problems. You're going to have people searching on AutoTrader for Renault Zoe's ZE50s, and when they select their model type Ioniq, they're going to get some really low spec ones and some really super high spec ones. So that will be slightly confusing and also hard to resell, residual values, just a bit of a mess, to be honest. Maybe they should have called it Ioniq Plus. They've used Ioniq, by the way, because Ioniq is the highest level trim in Europe. So why we suddenly decided to start using European naming for the car spec when we didn't previously, I have no idea. Ask Renault UK. I think it's a little bit bonkers and confusing. The next issue is going to be with the fact that you're going to get salesmen at probably a range of, new maybe, possibly not so much, but it's possible, untrained staff that haven't got the right adequate training, used staff, people reselling their car who don't really understand what they've got. They don't understand if they've got CCS, because some Ioniqs, when they first came out, could be bought with no CCS. The new model can only be bought with CCS. So that's going to be confusing. And what I'm trying to say is if you don't know who you're buying from, you don't buy from a reputable, trusted garage, you don't buy from an EV expert, you're going to likely buy the wrong model and be very upset later on when you find out it's not got CCS. If, you do happen to buy the previous Ioniq, not the new Ioniq spec. Because if you checked on Renault's website, you'd assume it had CCS, because it's the only option available and it's the highest level trim, but it's not when you look at an older one. So the lineup for Renault is as followed. The R135 EV50 Boost Charge Iconic will be sold at 31995. Then £800 less, we have the Techno Rapid Charge at 31195, followed by the Hell No CCS at 29995. So basically, Renault have gone to all this trouble of renaming, rebranding and changing things to get the Zoe under 30 grand, but only by £1,200. I mean, if you're spending 30 grand and you're going to CCS, £1,200 is it's a nothing. Just spend it. By the CCS. I don't understand why Renault really want to push a non-CCS version that really shouldn't be sold in 2022. And as we're going to discuss now, there's other things they could do to get under 30 grand, still sell CCS, and have a really good viable option selling the Zoe. And I think they think they need it under 30 grand because the Zoe's not selling so well at the moment. Now, personally, I feel Zoe sales are a bit lower than usual because there's a lot more competition out now for the Renault Zoe. There's a lot more new cars, there's a lot more electric cars. Renault got a 0 step car rating on the Renault Zoe, which has probably hurt and damaged the uptake of sales. I mean, sales are not desperately low on the Zoe. I'm just saying they're not as high as they possibly could be or should be in the market based on what a wonderful little car it is. It is a wonderful little car. The new two versions would get higher than 0 NCAP because they have all the safety features that the Play model didn't have, which was the model NCAP test. They think safety should be standard, which obviously Renault have now realised it should be standard, why they scrapped the Play model. And I also think the other reason that the Renault suffered is it's been out a while. I mean, I know they've had some safety changes, but it is relatively much the same car. It could do with something a little bit more, I don't know, sportier, sport Renault Cup. Make one of them, Renault. You will sell them by the bucket loads and probably be able to sell them for more money. But if you want to sell a cheap under 30 grand car, there's another way you can do it. So the solution that Renault could do to sell it under 30 grand, and actually I think they could sell it for under 25 grand, is selling an option with a 40 kilowatt hour battery. That 40 kilowatt hour battery would save a couple of modules from the 52 kilowatt hour pack they've got at the moment. And it would be needed by quite a lot of drivers. There's a lot of drivers in ZE40s that are getting rid of the ZE40 for other cars because the lack of fast charging. There's not many 22 kilowatt chargers out anymore. A lot of motorway chargers have been changed from the 43. If you had an old rapid charge Renault Zoe, which used to be charged at 43 AC, A lot of those have been ripped out now. So these 40 kilowatt hour drivers just want a car with CCS, not a car with non-CCS under 30 grand. So if they could sell the same size battery but with CCS, I think that they would retain a lot of previous Zoe customers that are just looking for a relatively cheap runaround, battery owned, no more battery leases on Renault Zoes anymore, and they're quite happy with the size of the battery. They just want fast charging for those occasional long distances they do. And I really want to know what you think in the comments. Do you think that Renault should sell a 40 kilowatt hour CCS only version of the Renault Zoe? Would you buy it? Would you still be interested in a battery that size in 2022? Or would you say apply the same maths that I said about cars shouldn't be sold without CCS in 2022? Do you think there's still a need for small battery cars at cheaper price levels? Let me know down below in the comments. Now, Renault could actually go one step further than my idea and actually fit the full 52 kilowatt hour battery and sell it as a 40 kilowatt hour Zoe, but software lock it to 40 and fit the 50. This would mean quicker production times. They could lock them once they've arrived to the dealer by software and do it that way. What they could also do, which is, we're going to be talking this in a later video coming up in a few weeks, so if you haven't already, click subscribe and you will not miss this video. Don't forget to click that bell if you definitely don't want to miss it. We're going to be talking about subscription soon and about how some manufacturers lock certain features in cars and then unlock them for a cost later. So the benefit could be you could buy a 40 kilowatt hour battery at $24,995 and then the next owner could have the option of upgrading that battery for another 5-6 grand to a 52 kilowatt hour battery. Renault get the extra revenue. They've only fitted one battery, so it makes things streamlined, and it also means that cars can carry on being resold with a larger battery. So even if you just said in the comments that a 40 kilowatt hour battery shouldn't be sold, if you could have the option of buying a 40 but upgrading it to a 50 by a pure software unlock, would that tempt you to buy that cheaper Zoe with the option of knowing that you could unlock it or pay a subscription per month to unlock that extra capacity? Let me know down below in the comments. Thank you very, very much for watching this week's video, and I'll see you again next week. Goodbye.